Hey guys, Victoria here and welcome to the Geeky Sandbox. Okay, so you'll have to excuse my voice and nasally sound for this video because my allergies are kicking in. So I'm gonna sound a little bit like a troll, but just bear with me. So today we're going to be doing our first spoiler review and Easter egg video and post-credit scene talk video in general for the channel, but most importantly for Black Panther. God guys, I don't even know where to start. There are so many great things that happen in this movie. Sorry, I just guess since I have these here, we'll go ahead and start with Easter eggs. You suck! So this Easter egg video is going to consist of like comic book Easter eggs as well as just, I don't know, movie references and music references and things like that. So the first Easter egg I want to talk about is the reference to the Black Panther party. You can actually find this Easter egg within the first few minutes of the movie actually. Nyong'O is talking to Zuri in his apartment and you kind of see some posters in the background. You see an NWA poster, you see a Public Enemy poster. And one thing we know about both of these groups is, and their music groups for those of you who don't know them, was that they had strong ties to the Black Panther Party. They made music to celebrate and support what they were doing. And personally, they all, or most of them anyway, supported, like I said, what the group was doing. And for those of you that don't know, the Black Panther Party, or the BPP, was a revolutionary organization. And they fought for the rights that Black people were supposed to have, the equal rights. Because during this time, there was a ton of racism going on. I believe they started in the 60s. Black families were some of the families that were being mistreated. And so the Black Panther organization was created. So in regard to the Black Panther group, it also has ties to Oakland. And we know our director, Ryan Coogler, is from Oakland. And that first scene takes place in Oakland. So it's a nice bundled up Easter egg. Black Panther Party, Black Panther movie, NWA, Public Enemy, Oakland, Ryan Coogler. So one of the next Easter eggs that I really loved that I thought was funny because I laughed. Maybe I don't know if anybody else laughed, but I laughed because I loved it. When Nyong'O tells Zuri to answer the door and he's just like, okay, who is it? And Zuri's like, I don't know, two Grace Jones looking chicks. And before I get into Grace Jones and who she is and all that, this is specifically referring to the Dora Milaje, which forgive me if I'm butchering the name. Please forgive me. But yeah, it's referring to them, and this is a whole group of beautiful women who are tasked, like they're a special force group who are tasked with protecting Wakanda, protecting the king, serving Wakanda, and all of that. They actually make their first appearance in the Black Panther comic books, Volume 3, Issue number 1, in November 1998. And as we know, Denai played the leader of this group, Okoye, and we'll talk more about Okoye and where she comes from just a little later. Grace Jones is primarily a very popular Black supermodel who's Jamaican. She also did some singing, some songwriting, and a little bit of acting as well. So I don't know, a nice little reference. Definitely during that time period because they kind of do have the shaved heads like Grace Jones did at one point, but also the time period matches up when Grace Jones was very popular. So another Easter egg I kind of want to talk about is Afrofuturism. Afrofuturism is a cultural aesthetic philosophy of science that kind of explores the cross between technology and African, or Black culture. And there was plenty of that clearly in Black Panther. Not only with the design of the buildings, the vehicles they drove, even the little wall, the little barrier between Wakanda and Wakanda, even the bottom of the jet. In an interview, it was said that the bottom of the jet was made to look like an African tribe mask. So I don't know, it's really nice to see all of that Afrofuturism come together, especially with Shuri's lab. You can see a ton of Afrofuturism in there with the tech, with how actually where it's located and things like that. And of course we have our really popular Easter egg that a lot of people are talking about, the Back to the Future 2 reference from Shuri to T'Challa whenever they were in the lab. Whenever she gives him a new pair of shoes and she puts them on, not only does she make a Vine reference, but she also makes a reference to that movie that our father used to watch all the time. And that is Back to the Future too, because whenever he steps in the shoes, Marty's shoes, they tie themselves and they lace up themselves, which was like the big thing back then. And everybody wanted those shoes. And so T'Challa has his own pair as he steps into like these kind of sandal looking things, and then they end up becoming a nice pair of shoes. Then we have the ancestral plane. That's where whenever you take the heart-shaped herb and you have your vision and you go into this plane in order to talk to the past kings, the past Black Panthers. It is a callback, or at least I think so, to the Djalia, which is from the comic books. If you've seen things like Vampire Diaries or any show like that, it's just, like I said, a realm where former supernatural beings, or in this case, the former kings, just kind of like relax and just rest, where people can get advice from them during trying times, or maybe even during great times. We do get to see it about 3 times in the movie. First, when T'Challa first takes the herb and he goes and he's finally going to become king, and this was shortly after his dad passed away. And then we have it whenever Killmonger goes and he has his own sort of vision and outer body experience. And then we have it once again whenever T'Challa goes back and he's confronting his father about leaving Eric behind after killing N'Jobu, his father, for trying to betray him and give, pretty much sell the vibranium, or give the location of the vibranium to Ulysses Claw. By the way, that was a twist in itself.
Oh, y'all wanted a twist, eh?
And just so you know, the name Djalia, it's used to describe West African tribal elders who carry the knowledge of the community and culture and history. So, I don't know, I thought that whole thing was done really nicely. The way, the Djalia, and the way that the ancestral plane was portrayed. The colors were beautiful, like I said, within the non-spoiler review. And one thing I mentioned about CG, I was a little worried that the Panthers would look very, very, very CG, but I thought it was nicely done. And those scenes between T'Challa and his father, the former king, were very, very beautiful. And I think the actors did an amazing job portraying those characters in that scene. Another Easter egg, which T'Challa did not get to wear this suit, but Eric Killmonger did. The Black Panther suit with the gold trim. That is definitely a callback to the Black Panther suit from the 90s. And so I like that nice touch that they added that in there. And which I thought it was ironic, just because T'Challa, whenever he saw the suit, he's like, man, that looks really nice. But you know what? We're gonna, stick to this one and be traditional. In another Easter egg, every breath you take is mercy from me. Killmonger said this in the movie to T'Challa, but this is actually a direct quote from Namor to Black Panther within the comic books whenever they had their rival going on. And the scene where Killmonger throws Black Panther off of the waterfall, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you can correct me on this. I believe he died in the comic books whenever Killmonger threw him off the waterfall, but within the movie we had a moment full of hope. We knew that T'Challa was not going to die from the fall. But this was, like I said, this was a callback to the comic books when Eric actually defeated T'Challa, but within the movie he didn't. And another thing I want to talk about, which was something that could have easily been missed, but the coordinates on the sheet that N'Jobu left Eric, they kind of suggest, oh, this is where you should go for Wakanda. This is your homeland too. Or like I've also heard, it could even hint to the directions that he was giving Ulysses Claw about the whereabouts of the vibranium. But regardless, whenever you put in these coordinates, it actually leads to the heart of Africa, which is the Republic of Congo, which I thought that was really cool, a really nice touch. There's just so much attention to detail within this movie, from, like I said, Ryan Coogler, the director, all the way to the costume designer, Ruth E. Carter. So this is kind of a cool little Easter egg, little fact. Whenever King T'Chaka, our former king, is in N'Jobu's apartment talking to Zuri, I remember I kept looking at the actor that was playing T'Chaka, and I was like, man, did they use CG? Man, he looks good here. What is happening? And it has come to find out that they got the actor's son to portray the younger version of him. They look so much alike. Don't know why it didn't hit me. I just assumed CG. But I thought that was a nice little Easter egg, or nice little treat for his son to get to play the younger version of him. Going back to the costume designer, Ruth E. Carter, amazing job a lot of research and time and dedication went into all the things she did in order to get everyone's outfits looking amazing. Even small things to Angela Bassett's character, like especially when she was in white. All of that stuff was 3D printed, and even just like the back of her costume that made an arc like this, it was supposed to be like resemblance of the sun, just kind of that she's in mourning, but she's always going to remember her husband. So even little things like that. I want to talk about the very, very, very subtle detail about the colors of Africa. They're in the scene in South Korea where you have Nakia, T'Challa, and Okoye kind of staking out the deal between Ulysses Claw and Agent Ross with vibranium. They're standing in a nice row. They look amazing and gorgeous. Nakia has on a green dress, T'Challa has on a black suit, and then Okoye has on a beautiful red dress. And just seeing them lined up is not only aesthetically pleasing, like the colors, but you can see that those are the colors of Africa: red, green, and black. And just a sidebar, Ruth and Ryan actually came up with a book called the Wakandan Bible, where it had about 500 pages, and it made references to tribes that they reference within the movie, like where they got the lip plate from and where they got the wraps around them from, like that tribe, what were they based in, and things like that. And I think, I don't know, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment. I think Ryan Coogler even spent months within Africa writing Black Panther. So I don't know if you guys knew that. That's really awesome to me. Something that I aspire to do whenever I start writing or even acting, just to take that extra step in order to make something amazing. Okay, so let's talk relationships. One of the things I didn't want to give away within the non-spoiler review, and don't worry, this is still part of the whole Easter egg thing, was the relationship between Nakia and T'Challa. As we know, within the movie, they are exes, and they're kind of on the verge of getting back together. You might as well say they're back together. There are no ties to Storm. There's no mention of Storm, obviously because Fox owned, because you know we're on our way to Fox being Disney owned, but at the time Fox owned all of the X-Men characters, Fantastic Four and things like that, so there's no mention of Storm or anything like that. It's just T'Challa and Nakia. Within the comic books, actually, the Dora Milaje, they actually were these wives that were, you know, like I said, they were the warriors, but they were also potential wives for the king. But this was before T'Challa brought this group back, because they were disbanded for a long time. And so when he brought them back, he was like, no, we're not doing none of that. You guys are just here platonically. You're my friends, you're my family, and we're going to fight to make sure Wakanda is safe. And Nakia, within the comic book, she was a part of the group with Okoye. And Nakia was kind of upset by this, and she was just kind of like, excuse me, I thought I was going to be your wife. And I think it's a nice and funny contrast, because within the movie, Lupita's portrayal of Nakia is just more so like, I do not want to be a queen. If I want to be a queen, maybe I'll think about it. It has its perks, but that's not what I'm after. But like I said, whereas in the comic books, she was actually crazed and obsessed with becoming the queen, to the point where she became a villain, actually, which I can't think of the name of the villain, but I'll try to pop it up right here. And just going off of that, they did a really great job staying true to the comics in general, whether it was from costume pieces or dialogue or the way a certain character carried themselves, especially a character like Eric Killmonger. In the comic books, he was definitely more cutthroat. And in the movie, he was definitely still cutthroat, but they gave us something as an audience where he still pulled the heartstrings of some of us, where you kind of felt for him and maybe you rooted for him, you know what I mean? So if any of you have read Jungle Action #9, then you know exactly what I'm about to talk about. So in the movie, there's this really cool battle between T'Challa, the Dora Milaje, and the Jabari. And there's this really, really, really cool scene where Wakabi just blows a horn. You don't know what's gonna happen, especially if I don't know. I know I didn't know what was gonna happen, but Wakabi blows his horn, and then right out of the ground comes a rhinoceros, and it's a steel rhinoceros. It's covered in steel. It's covered in this intense armor, and he jumps on top of it and rides it right towards T'Challa. And it was the most breathtaking and fun and really, really, really exciting scene. Definitely the people that I was with were really excited, from the people who follow the MCU, and then for those who don't, they were all really enjoying this moment. And so now that we've got the majority of the Easter eggs out of the way, let's talk post-credit scenes. So one of the basic foundations of the movie is, do we help people like us? Do we help other people? Or are we going to stay secluded and closed off and help our own people? That's just where you get the differences between Eric Killmonger and T'Challa. T'Challa's been raised like his whole life to just kind of be like, okay, Wakanda forever, Wakanda, that's it. If they're not in Wakanda, it's not our problem. And where you have Eric Killmonger, who his father was from Wakanda, but he went to America, he fell in love, and they had a child, which is the whole reason he stayed out there, aside from him being a spy and all. But so you have these different ways of life that these two guys have known. So of course, you know, they're going to see this situation differently. You have Eric who's like, you know what, I grew up in this kind of place. I didn't have the things you had. I feel like the things you have will help us rise against our oppressors. Though T'Challa eventually comes around to sharing Wakanda's wealth, secrets, technology, medicine, and things like that, it took him a while to get there. He originally, like I said, was just not necessarily on the same page with Eric Killmonger, where he felt that Wakanda needed to get involved in other worldly matters, which Eric did go a little sideways. His way of rising against the oppressors of Black people and Africans was to supply them with weapons to hurt other people, and you know, that's not the way. And so obviously T'Challa had to fight against that and whatnot. Eric and his entire situation just opened the eyes of T'Challa, especially knowing that they just left a child there to fend for himself, which helped created who he was. And I don't know, it just kind of goes back to like, why aren't we helping people? Why did you leave and why didn't we help them? And like his dad said, we just had to protect Wakanda. Wakanda comes first. And that really did shape T'Challa from that moment forward. And it really was a turning point for his philosophy and how he felt about sharing things with others. Nakia, she was actually another reason that he decided to open his heart and open the doors of Wakanda for the general public. One of the points she kept making throughout the movie was, come on, like, why don't we share this stuff with other people? Why don't we let them know what we can do? And, you know, I mean, I do agree that it was fair for them to assume that they would be taken advantage of, which that was the reason I felt they weren't sharing their things with other people. I'm so sorry, guys. I was on a roll and then my camera died and But regardless, we are going to carry on Wakanda Forever. And plus, I didn't want you guys to have to wait any longer for this video, so let's continue. I say all of that to say the first credit scene was awesome and it was empowering, but it also come to find out that this was actually going to be the original ending for the Black Panther movie. T'Challa actually goes in and talks to the UN, and you have Agent Ross in the back kind of just nodding and things like that. But he decides to reveal that Wakanda isn't what people think it is. They actually have a lot of resources and things that can help people and a lot of technology. And the last question that gets asked right before it cuts to black, well, how can you really help us? Like, what do you have to offer? And then, of course, T'Challa just smirks. Part of me just wonders, how is he going to answer that question? I mean, obviously, we know all the stuff that Wakanda has to offer, and we know what they're capable of, but how will he show this to this group of people? And I also wonder, are they going to be upset with him? Are they going to start referring back to times when Wakanda could have stepped in and helped? In the second post-credit scene, which I was really excited about initially, because we already covered the setup for the second Black Panther movie. And so now me and many other Marvel fans are just sitting there waiting and waiting for that Infinity War Easter egg. But regardless, we get our post-credit scene where we see Shuri kind of catches some of the kids kind of messing with someone while they're supposed to be resting. And she's like, "Are you messing with our guest?" And they just come out calling him White Wolf, White Wolf. And of course, Bucky emerges and he shares a brief exchange with Shuri. And that's it. I mean, that is something. Like, I can't act like it's nothing. So we can assume that Shuri is the person who repairs his arm, because in this scene, he doesn't have his arm yet. He doesn't have his vibranium arm. But in regard to post-credit scenes, I was still excited to see Bucky walk out of the tent. But one of the people, I don't know. Like, I just had some kind of different expectation for what we would have saw before the movie, since it's so close to coming out. It would have been very interesting if Banner would have walked out of the tent. You know, that would have definitely been very interesting. Like, how did Hulk become Banner again? How did Banner get there? Like, leaves you with more questions versus showing us something that we already know. Well, that's about it for this video. I can't wait to go see Black Panther again. And, you know, if you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can get more comic book videos like this one. And if you're already subscribed to my channel, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can get a notification every time the Geeky Sandbox uploads a video. I promise I won't spam you. Now, I know that there are more Easter eggs out there and just small things that I may have missed. I had a whole list that I was going based off of that I wrote when I saw the movie again. But if there's something that you think I should talk about, or something else that's worth mentioning, or even something as simple as more info about the Soul Gems and the Infinity Stones and how I think Thanos is going to obtain all of them, just let me know and I'll be sure to do that. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!